Hi everyone, welcome to today's training on internal linking. So first of all, what is internal linking? Internal linking is essentially any time there's a link from one page on a website to another. This is important to SEO for a number of reasons. Number one, it sends signals to search engines for important content. So, pages that are linked to in the top navigation, you're indicating to search engines that these are really important pages that they ought to be crawling and indexing. It encourages equity flow from page to page, and it also encourages users to continue exploration of the site. So, equity on a website flows from the home page down. So anytime that you're linking from, the homepage, maybe to the About Us page, to a product page, you're just sending that equity down and kind of sharing it between all of the pages. And then, it is encouraging people to continue to click around and engage with and interact with your website. So a really important part of assessing your internal linking is ensuring that every single link on your website is going to a 200 status page. Essentially what this means is the URL status is 200 and that it's not redirecting or showing an error. And the reason that this is really important is that search engines, when they're crawling your website, they're not wasting time crawling pages that they shouldn't be crawling. You're sending quality signals to search engines. So let's say that you have a page where there's lots of internal links and all of the internal links are redirecting to another page. You're just giving a signal to search engines that that's a low quality page where the user won't really find what they're looking for, the search engine won't really find what they're looking for. And it also reduces latency. So, anytime you have a page that is redirecting somewhere else or it's an error, it's just making it more difficult for the server to return that page. So you want to make sure that anytime you have an internal link on your website, it's going to a proper 200 status code page. So the way that you would go about doing this, there's a number of different ways that you can check for link errors. So using Screaming Frog as well as just checking on your browser. On the screen, we do have screenshots of these different tools. So that first one in the top left there is the redirect chains report in Screaming Frog. So essentially what you would do is you would crawl the website using Screaming Frog, and then in that top menu around reports, it'll just bulk pull all of the redirect chains for you. And you can also look at all of the internal links to make sure that they're all 200 status. And then another way that you could spot check this is just, checking within your browser. So there's a number of, extensions that you can get. I personally have this one on Google Chrome from IAMA, but anytime there's some sort of redirect, the Chrome extension will tell you. So that's another really good way to spot check to make sure that all the links on one page are going to the right place. Another really important source of internal linkings is footer links. So footer links is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a link in a footer of a website. Links in the footer are really important, not just for users, but also for search engines. Typically, this is where people will go to look at pages about the company, maybe the blog. There can be a tendency here for people to try to stuff as many links as they can into the footer since it's kind of at the bottom and it's hidden. But we would definitely not recommend doing that. You want to make sure that any page that's down there is relevant and actually useful to a user and not spammy. So another really important part of internal linking is breadcrumb linking. Essentially, breadcrumbs are the links at the top of the page that let you know where you are within the site architecture. A really good way to think about this is actually the architecture in biology, where you've got the kingdom on the top, then underneath you have the phylum, there's the subphylums underneath. So the breadcrumb essentially just lets you know where you're at. So a good maybe metaphor for this, if you think about an e-commerce page, maybe the kingdom is the home page, the phylum is clothes, the subphylum, you've got tops, bottoms, skirts, the class is like short sleeve shirts, and then the little insects themselves are the products. So by having that structure, those breadcrumbs at the top of the page, you can always know where you are within the hierarchy. So this is something that can be manually checked. You can include this on category pages, subcategory, product, or informational pages. The two examples here are from Liberty Tax Service and Nordstrom. So with the Liberty Tax Service, you're in the family subcategory within the tax resources top nav, but you wouldn't know that just by looking at this page because there are no breadcrumbs. Conversely, looking at Nordstrom, where they do have breadcrumb linking enabled, you know that you're on men's coats and jackets, and it tells you that you went to home, men, clothing, coats, and jackets. Similar to what we talked about in the beginning of this presentation, how all internal links should be going to, a 200 status page, the same goes for a breadcrumb link. You want to make sure that any page you link to is going directly to the end state authoritative canonical URL. So this can be kind of difficult, especially on, large e-commerce websites, because sometimes there can be different ways of navigating to the same page because they might fall under multiple categories. So here we have an example of kids bunk beds page where it falls underneath, the baby and kids sections in the top nav, but it also falls under furniture. So there's, different ways of navigating to this. And of course, depending on how many categories or products your site has, there might just always be more than one way. But you want to make sure that the internal link is always going directly to the end state URL. Another important factor with breadcrumb linking, well, I guess any linking, is you want to make sure that the link includes optimized relevant keywords. So, rather than saying something like just click here, the text that you use in the anchor text should describe what the page is about. You want to make sure that you're using relevant and descriptive anchor text. Anchor text, if you're not sure, is essentially just the text that you see when you click on the link. And a really good way to do this is by just checking it manually, or you can also use Screaming Frog to find all of the anchor text for all of the links on a page at once. So some examples of using this. Here we have a description of front load washers on a laundry page. So what's really good about this is that it's descriptive, it's relevant, anchor text. You know what the page is going to be about when you click on it. Really great example. And then the example on the right is not as good, where it says shop our shoe care here. It just says here. I suppose you could understand the context from the previous part of the sentence beforehand, but the actual anchor text itself definitely could be more descriptive and relevant. So what we would recommend is just getting rid of that altogether and making the whole link, shop our shoe care. So you want to make sure that when you have internal linking within body content, like on a blog post or maybe copy on, a category page, that you don't want to overuse internal links. There's no hard and fast rule. A general rule of thumb could be one link to every 100 words so that you're not overwhelming the user when they see a bunch of links. But of course, take this with a grain of salt because there definitely are some instances where you could use more than one link per 100 words, or even less than that, depending on what it is. Here's, some visual examples of what that actually looks like. So the example on the left, there's only one link for about 140 words. So there's one link for this whole paragraph. And then the example on the right, there's a link pretty much every couple words, it seems like. I think trying to strike a balance between these two examples, it definitely depends on the nature of the copy. But overall, you don't want to overuse internal linking, even though it is important. That concludes the internal linking training from Perfect Search. Hope you learned a lot about why internal linking is important for SEO. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.